to be a decent human being? What does it mean to have a sense of, proper sense of shared community with others? Not enforced through taxes and regulation, but as a human being associating with others because we choose to, because we think it's a good cause. I'm not surprised that those German executives and businessmen had such an uncharitable attitude in terms of their own giving, because it's become intergenerational. When the government taxes so much that you don't have enough to be benevolent or charitable if you're economically fortunate enough to have enough money to do so. How do you teach your children the same values? Right? Don't children learn from observing and copying their parents? Everything from walking and talking to how to eat with the utensils at a kitchen table to what it means to have good manners, polite behavior, what it means to have values. You learn your values from your parents too. Well, when the government taxes so much that people have very little left to be charitable if they chose to, what's being taught to the next generation? They're losing the opportunity to learn from their parents and observing their parents, the importance of that sense of shared community. Not through government, but as a decent human being living in a society. So I'm not surprising these executives in Germany have no sense of obligation or ability. They didn't learn it from their parents because the damn German state has co-opted and taken away any sense of responsibility from the German people for generations. I think we're a poorer world because of this. I have more confidence in each and every one of you if you were given the opportunity and the chance and the sense of a feeling in your own mind and inside that this was the right thing to do. If the government didn't tax you, if the government didn't block you, if the government just left you alone to live your life and try to be a decent person, which includes some of this, as opposed to just being a cog in the political machine. That's the ideal that I would like for us to restore in each and every free society. The United States, the Bahamas, Europe, everywhere. Because it means just being a decent human being. And you can only be a decent human being when you have the freedom to try to be so. And to be motivated to even discover what it means, rather than being closed and shut off by a state monopoly of bureaucracies that are more concerned with shuffling papers than solving the problems that occur when you're doing it on your own or with people of shared beliefs face to face with other human beings. Thank you very much. Okay, we got a little time for questions, I guess, before our final break and then the final comments. Any questions about any of this? I know it's a lot to take in between yesterday and today. I mean, I'm not sure if I could sit there and listen to me. That'd be terrible.
I just have a question. I'm just saying, all right, I agree. I've always agreed that welfare is always going to keep people poor and it's simply a tool used to manipulate. But now that it's so widespread, to just eliminate welfare, you already have generations have been going through it. They don't have the skills to get rid of it. You're going to have a period. Okay, well, in the long run, you may stop, but immediately in the short run, you're going to have a whole lot of people who are going to suffer, probably even die due to the lack of funding from the government that they've been weaning off of for so long. How would you slowly break people into that? Because I'm just saying, I don't know.
Well, I think that it is true. People have developed these networks of dependency upon government. They're living in government housing. They get welfare payments from the government. They're subsidized in some way by the government for health care or retirement and whatever. It's obvious that in the real world and pragmatically, it will have to be sort of transitioned out of. Let's say, hypothetically, a 10-year horizon or something. But the point is that I don't see that it would be very difficult to move to such a transition. Let's suppose that you just started, say that we would start cutting budgets for such programs by 10% a year. That leaves 90% of whatever that department or bureau has been spending. And that we're cutting taxes by some equivalent amount. So that money that the government had been spending is now shifted back into the private sector to do a variety of things. Well, some people are in need or in low income or are unemployed because they don't have a job. Well, if you cut the taxes by cutting the programs by some comparable amount, that money is in private hands, part of which, as we were talking about earlier today, will end up being in private investment for expanding businesses, growing businesses, starting businesses, all of which will start creating job opportunities for people otherwise. I would eliminate minimum wage laws or other barriers to employment opportunities. For example, I think that lowering the minimum wage, I don't know if you have do you have a minimum wage here? Okay. Yeah. Listen, I know it sounds like, how can people live on less than minimum wage? Believe me, they're getting zero and welfare now. Let them get some kind of job to have at least some on-the-job training. And cut welfare for these people by the amount that they're now earning income, which enables you to diminish the expenditures on these programs by that amount. So to be transitioning them out slowly over a period of years. There are, in the United States and other countries, regulatory barriers to starting your own businesses. Let me give an example of something that could easily be, that easily someone could have a business in, but is made impossible by a city government. Before 1942, if you wanted to drive a taxi cab in the city of New York, you would go down to the city hall and get a taxi cab license. This cost you $25. All you had to do was to show that you had a driver's license and that your car had been inspected for general safety. Right? You had bumpers, you had brakes, suspension, right? Just basic safety, a driver's license, and you could be a cabbie in New York City for $25. In 1942, they froze the issuance of taxi cab licenses. In New York, they're called medallions. Why, I don't know, but medallions. And they have not issued any more taxi cab licenses since 1942. Now, the existing taxi cab licenses have remained in some private individual hands or passed on to a son or something, or have been bought up by some large taxi cab companies. Now, if you want to drive a taxi cab, you have to buy out one of the existing licenses. And you know what the going price today is to become a taxi cab driver by buying out someone who's holding one of these licenses? Try about $350,000. Well, how's a poor person going to try to start making a living being self-supporting with just having a car that meets a safety inspection and a driver's license when you need $300,000 to $350,000 to buy out someone's taxi cab license?